What if I told you that that first number you heard in that negotiation, that first price you heard in that salary negotiation, that first figure, they were never just information, they were a trap, and chances are you never escaped those traps. The human mind is a very powerful playing ground. Those who know how to play, cultivate it, and get the right harvest. Anchoring bias, which is number 14 in our 225 plus bias series. We just talked about how contrast shapes your decisions. Today, we go into one of the most financially consequential biases in this entire series and in our lives. This one lives in every salary negotiation, every sales conversation, every asking price, every market transaction, and even in how you value yourself and your relationship. Anchoring bias. My name is Cussons, Africa's premium high performance thinking and strategic execution consultant. Anchoring bias is the tendency to rely too heavily on the first piece of information, the first piece of information you received when making decisions, and then you allow every subsequent judgment, every subsequent negotiation, every subsequent evaluation to revolve around that initial number, that initial figure, that initial idea, like a boat tied to a dock. The anchor drops first, then every single thing revolves around it. So you are floating around that first number. Now, it doesn't matter if the first piece of information is accurate, whether it's fair or even relevant. Once it lands in your brain, lands in your mind, it becomes the invisible reference point against which everything else is measured. In relationship, have you heard, I'm not the communication part. I'm not the communication type. I'm not the outgoing type. I'm not the chatting type. Whoever drops the anchor first controls the entire conversation. So let's look at how it works in business. So you walk into a room as a consultant, you walk into a room for negotiation, you walk into a room for love, you walk into a room and the first word that comes out anchors everything. So the client opens with, we are thinking about this project. We have only 500,000. We have only 1 million for this project. Immediately, that number, whether reasonable or not, has just become the psychological center of gravity for the entire discussion. If you say left, they say, we told you we have only 500. If you say right, they say, we told you we have only. Now, the consultant is negotiating upward from 500,000 instead of downward from their own number. In the consultant's true value, he may be valued at 10 million, 5 million, 20 million, but because the anchor has been dropped, you will either negotiate up or down from there. So if the consultant's true value is somewhere between 2 million and 5 million, now the anchor just closed them, removing about 1.5 or 3.5 or 4.5 before the conversation even properly began. So flip it. A skilled entrepreneur walks into that same room and opens first. Projects of this scope and impact typically run between 3.5 million and 5 million. And here's the value you are receiving. Now, because you dropped the anchor first, the client is trying to negotiate. The client is negotiating downward from 3.5 or 5 million. Now, the anchor belongs to the entrepreneur. The outcome belongs to the entrepreneur. Why? Because she dropped the anchor first. This is also why the sticker price on a car exists, you come in and the sticker price said 120 million, 60 million, whatever. Not because the dealer expects to get that, but because the dealer wants to drop the anchor. He wants to anchor your perception of the value, what a good deal looks like. So you walk away feeling victorious after paying maybe minus 2 million or whatever from the stickered price, not realizing that the car's true market value was so and so all along. The same in relationship. A young professional grows up in a home where love was exposed, expressed, explored through criticism, where the standard was always you are not enough. That becomes their anchor for what love feels like. So when they enter adulthood and unconsciously seek relationships that feel familiar, that will feel familiar for them. So relationships where they have to earn their love or prove their worth or tolerate being diminished, not because they want to have pain, but because they've been programmed from home. Their anchor of love is pen with affection attached. So parents know what you're exposing your kids to, because anything you expose them to anchors their perception and their value. Now consider this: someone tells you early in a relationship, I'm not really the communicating type, I'm not really the emotional type, I'm not really the loving type, I'm not really. That statement becomes an anchor. You now adjust your expectations downward. You now adjust your expectations. You excuse all, emotional unavailability because the anchor was set on the first day and you never challenged it. What happens to I'm not the communicating type, but I will teach you communication? What happens to I'm not emotional? I will teach you how to express your emotion. I'm not the loving, I will show you how to love. Yes? Now, always, how do we fix it? 3 moves that will immediately protect your money, your business, and your relationship by understanding the anchoring effect and the antidote. Number 1, always drop the anchor first. In every negotiation, every sales, every conversation, every pitch, name your number, name your value, name your expectation, name your standard before the other party does. He who anchors first frames the entire battlefield. Practice stating your price with confidence before anyone else says the tone. And if they say the tone, you are free to walk away. I call it holy arrogance. Number 2, pause before responding to any opening offer. The moment someone gives you a first number or a first position, do not react immediately. Pause. Ask yourself, is this anchor legitimate? What does my independent research say this should be worth? Don't take it at face value. Never negotiate from their anchor. Always return to your own data and use it. Okay? Say, okay, if it's 1 billion, I think I should be in the wrong room because I've never done this job for less than 5 million before. And this is what you are going to get when I do it for you. And you state those, and then you use it as counter anchor. Audit the anchors already living in your life. That's number 3. This is the deep work you must do. What beliefs about your worth, your self-image, your self-esteem, your pricing, your relationship, your standards were set earlier in your life by your parents, by a failed experience, a failed relationship, a toxic boss, a difficult season that you are still unconsciously floating around today. Identify those anchors, challenge them, replace them with anchors you have deliberately chosen. It happened in my own life. Disability anchored me at the level of not good enough, but I reversed the anchor. In fact, earlier in my life, people think I'm very proud and arrogant, but I was trying to reframe their perception of me. Being physically challenged, everybody thinks you should get the crumb. Yes, everybody thinks whether it is women, it is education, is academics, is the class position, it is choice of wife, it is the kind of children you give birth to, where you live, your neighborhood, the kind of car you ride, whatever they think you should be, just take anything. Yes, I stomach it for some time and I refused and I changed the anchor. So here's a statement I want you to always think about. I want you to anchor it in your mind. You are not free if you are still floating around someone else's anchor. That's why self-audit, self-anchor audit is very important. Audit your anchors. That price you charge, you need to ask the question, is it mine or is it anchored to what someone once told you your work was worth? Your work was worth. That standard you accepted in relationships. Is it yours or is it anchored to the lowest point you once survived or what you saw your mom or your dad take from their own marriages? You have to be careful here too so you don't overdo. That ceiling you believe exists for your business, is it real or is it an anchor dropped by someone who never achieved what you are capable of achieving? Who told you in our industry you cannot do that? In our industry this is not possible. The most powerful move you can make today in business, in relationship, in your life is to cut the old anchors and drop your own. Remove the anchors that were there made for you and drop your own. It could be anchor about your wealth, your level of health, have you ever seen people talk about things like, and there's no way you can be 40 without having sicknesses. There's no way you can, be wealthy without being corrupt. There's no way you can go through this without somebody connecting you. There's, all those things. They form anchors in your brain. So set your own anchor, okay? Name your own value. Drop your own anchor. Be sure that it's yours. And make the world negotiate with you from your anchor point. So, I don't know who needs to hear this. This series, this number 14 about 225 plus biases and fallacies. So the series is not just giving you information. My intention, how can I transform your thinking, then transform your performance? So share this with every entrepreneur, every consultant, every coach, every professional, every civil servant in your network. Someone needs to raise their standards, their price, their values, and who they think they are. I want to appreciate you for listening in. Now, check the comment section and click on the link there. You'll see Dr. Cussons' masterclasses and webinar series. Join them and become more. The world is waiting for you and it is your time to shine. See you tomorrow.